Good morning, and thank you for joining a special edition of Down the Rabbit Hole with KD. I am your host, the K Dixon, here with the incomparable, infamous Dr. James David Manning, PhD. Sir, I am so excited to talk to you. I don't know what to do. First of all, let me say thank you for joining me on such short notice. I know that you are a busy man, and I am not going to hold you up. I dive right into my interviews, and so I'm going to do the same thing with you. Sir, give my viewers a little bit about your background. Where are you from? Where did you grow up? Et cetera, et cetera. I know now that you're living in, I know that you're in Harlem,
That's right.
New York, but where are you originally from?
Well, first of all, KD, thank you for having me. And
Absolutely.
we'll be quite successful here today in our dialogue together. Interestingly
Yes,
enough, I have been beginning to speak more about my resume. I think it's important that people understand who I am. I grew up in rural North Carolina in the era of Jim Crow. I graduated from a segregated high school in 1965. Though the Board of Education, Brown versus the Board of Education decision had ordered by the federal courts of Thurgood Marshall, ordered that all schools be integrated. And this was 5 years earlier, but I still had not, in North Carolina, they still wouldn't have black folk go to school with white folk. At any rate,
yes, sir.
I grew up picking cotton. John Lewis has touted how he picked cotton. Tim Scott, Republican Senator of South Carolina, has touted what a great feat he has come from the cotton fields to Congress. I also picked cotton, not just me, but my entire family. I grew up as a sharecropper, so I have that kind of background experience, if you will.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so go ahead.
And not just that. I mean, growing up picking cotton and drinking from a colored water fountain, I did all of that. I lived just on the doorstep of slavery because of the sharecropping experience in North Carolina. But I've also had the experience of working on one of the last chain gangs in America. And I worked on the chain gang being in prison in Florida for a crime I did not commit after I was beaten half to death by police on Miami Beach one Saturday night. And I spent a couple of weeks in the Jackson Memorial Hospital in Miami, later taking the trial. And I took it back, as they say. I took them out of the trial in Miami Beach and Dade County because I didn't commit the crime. But I was convicted anyway and sentenced for 3 years. So I think it's important that people know that. But I've been a pastor of the church now for nearly 40 years.
Okay, awesome. So you grew up, you said, in North Carolina, picking cotton on the doorstep of slavery, but you had a bout in prison. You were convicted of a crime that you did not commit. Can you tell us about that, sir?
Yeah, well,
and what happened?
I was convicted in 2 states. I was convicted in the state of New York for a crime I did do, but quasi did not. But I stand guilty on that one. But in Florida, I was convicted of a crime of burglary on Miami Beach, which I did not do. And I was sentenced to 3 years in prison for that crime.
Okay. And were these, you said that you were beaten half to death. Were these African-American or Caucasian police officers that beat you half to death, or what?
Well, what happened is that I had gone out to do a burglary that night on Miami Beach. Now, Miami Beach is some of the priciest real estate on the planet. Miami Beach itself is not really a geographical land. It was dredged up by certain people who had, like I forget the name of the group, military group, that made it a beach. Miami is a city. Miami Beach is across the bay. But anyway, very pricey real estate, very wealthy, rich people. So I was down there cracking houses, stealing jewelry, that kind of thing. But I went out that Saturday night and I couldn't find a house to crack. So I came back. Police was waiting for me. Police was waiting for me at my hotel. And yeah, they were all white. They were all rednecks, quite frankly. We weren't just white, they were rednecks. And I ran. They finally caught me and beat the living daylights out of me and threw me in a jail cell. And late, I couldn't get up the next morning. They took me by ambulance to the hospital with a cracked rib, concussion, broken teeth. But I didn't commit a crime that night. I didn't. But they were white.
Okay. I have seen some of your other videos, and I must say that I'm fascinated by some of the things that you say, as majority of my viewers are. One of the things that I have heard you say, I think you were talking with Black TV or something like that, is that you are not Black. You don't consider yourself to be Black. You don't consider yourself to be African American. You are a Hemite. And sir, I have heard of a Hittite, but I've never heard of a Hemite. Can you just explain to the viewers what exactly a Hemite is and exactly what region of the planet that they're from?
Well, you know,
and I'm sorry to interrupt you, and why you associate yourself with a Hemite.
Initially, we were called colored or Negro for the first couple of 100 years in America. It was either Negro or colored, depending on the level of education that the white society wanted to be able to explain, colored or Negro. But in the late 60s, early 70s, the Black Power movement arose, and with the Fannie Lou Hamer types and Stokely Carmichael and Rap Brown came the designation of being Black people. We then call ourselves Black. But for many, many years, in 1950, if you called me Black, that was fighting words. You didn't call Black people Black.
That's the truth.
You want to fight them.
That's the truth.
Then they flipped the script and started calling themselves Black. And then later on in 1984, I think Jesse Jackson coined the phrase African American. So we've been known by both of those. And I identify with neither one of them. Now, I understand the race of colored, Negro, Black, and African American, but Noah, who resettled the planet after the great flood of the Bible, in Genesis chapter 9, Noah was the father of planet Earth at that time, and he had 3 sons. One was named Shem, who is the father of the Jews, or the Semite people, or the Semitic people. And Ham was Noah's second son. Ham is the father of the Hamite people, and later known as the Canaanite people. And Japheth, Noah's third son, is the father of the Gentile people as they traversed the earth after Noah had settled down after the flood. So Ham later went to Africa and established Egypt, and I believe was the reason why the pyramids were built. The great medical society that was discovered in Egypt by my father Ham, and the great society that was built there on the Nile River by Ham. So I call myself a son of the pharaohs as a Hamite, by as Ham being my father, but Hamite is his progeny. So rather than identify myself as a Black man or African American, my true identity is Hamite.
Amen. Now, I find that quite interesting, and these are all facts, let me just say, and I must agree with you there. But I've seen in some of your videos where you have said that Egypt is not part of Africa, and stop me if I'm wrong, Egypt is not part of Africa, and that the Black man has not built anything. Or was that taken out of context? Was this part of, because I know how, I'm in film and television, so I know how editing works. And I've seen some of your interviews before, and it seems as though people have tried to clown you and have tried to discredit some of what you're saying. So I just want to be clear with this interview, because I'm not here to clown you, sir. I'm literally here to talk with you and get an understanding about who you are as a person. So were those videos edited correctly, or do you really feel as though Egypt is not Africa and that the Black man has not built anything?
As best I can determine, those videos, probably, I haven't seen all the videos that you've seen, but I know the ones that I have dispensed I would not consider them having been edited. And yes, I do not consider Egypt as a part of Africa. But before before you're ready to refute me, because it appears they're both on the same continent, let me just give some context, some geographical context here. Egypt, as you know, is bordered by the Red Sea, which separates it from Saudi Arabia and several other United Arab Emirates. And below Egypt is the nation of Ethiopia. And right below Ethiopia is a smaller nation called Eritrea. These are three nations that border the Red Sea, that later border the Indian Ocean or the Persian Gulf. And that's on the east side of Egypt. The west side of Egypt is bordered by the Blue Nile River. The Nile River runs from Lake Tana in Egypt north. Unlike most rivers that run south, the Amazon River and the Nile River runs north, and it runs north from Lake Tana into the Mediterranean Sea. So if you divide whether the Nile River cuts off from Libya, Egypt, you will discover that Egypt really is it's encompassed by the Red Sea on the east side, the Nile River on the west side, and the Mediterranean Sea on the north. And before the British constructed the Suez Canal, I think it was 1955, Egypt was attached to the Middle East, what we now call the Gaza or the Sinai Desert. But in 1955, some British military people, along with the Corporation of America, created a 300-mile canal between the Red Sea and the Mediterranean Sea, opening up travel from the Indian Ocean up to the Red Sea, right up into the Mediterranean. Otherwise, prior to the building of the Suez Canal, like the Panama Canal, you had to travel all the way around the coast of Africa, down to South Africa, and then back up to the Atlantic Ocean to get to the Mediterranean. So it was a brilliant idea, but geographically, Egypt was attached to the Middle East.
Right. I see what you're saying, and I'm looking at it now, but to my understanding, it is on the continent it says continent Africa and Asia, correct? But you're saying that there was a geographical change?
I'm saying that if you allow the Nile River to be the border of the west of Egypt. Now, geographically, right now, a segment of Egypt, at least a third of its land mass, is on the west side of the Nile River. That the Nile River runs through Egypt. I'm saying if you cut off Egypt at the Nile, then it becomes a part of the Middle East, separated by the Nile River and bordered by the Red Sea.
Okay. All right. But it's...
And by the way, it's the argument. The Egypt, its pyramids, its extraordinary history, is markedly different from Sub-Saharan Africa. And I think when we understand the Sahara, the Great Desert, even if we understand Libya and Morocco, which are on the crown, there's Egypt, then there's Libya, then there's Algiers, and then there's Morocco. If you look at those four nations on the crown of Africa, these people don't really consider themselves Africans. People in Libya, they don't. So Egypt would be in the same category as Algiers or Morocco or Libya, for that matter.
But regardless whether they consider themselves Africans, from what I'm looking at, I don't know how well that we can see that, probably not well enough. Egypt is separated from Saudi Arabia by the Red Sea.
Right.
But if you notice, it's on the continent of Africa.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, I'll give that as an argument, but geographically, I can argue as well. If you use the Eritrea and the Nile River starting in Ethiopia, It really creates, it separates Egypt. I mean, one could argue and argue
This
somewhat
all day.
yeah, successfully that Egypt is Africa.
Yes.
And I mean, okay, but I think I catch people's attention
Yes,
when I
you did.
demonstrate geographically, because nobody ever thought about the fact that maybe Egypt isn't in Africa. Because on the other hand, Egypt, in terms of its historical culture, does not look like the culture of the rest of Egypt, like Timbuktu, like Mali or Ghana or Ivory Coast or Kenya, Nigeria or Robia or Uganda. It doesn't. Egypt does not look like. It looks more like Libya, Algeria, Morocco. But I don't want to say Egypt's in Africa. I'm not going to fight you.
Don't fight me, because I want to say it's in Africa, sir.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on. Let's move on from there. I have to refer back to your videos, and you have said some things that have been very shocking to some. It's not shocking to me because I've been there, I've done that, I've heard it all. But you said, and one of the things, and I quote, "Niggas ain't shit," and I understand, and niggas ain't shit. We have never built anything. You had a big ordeal about, there was this whole spiel about Nelson Mandela getting South Africa, how South Africa was like it turned into this whole thing. It was the worst thing that you could ever done. You literally were like almost crying, don't give the nation to a black man. Why do you feel that way, sir?
I mean, the continent of Africa is laid pretty bare, and it has a scarce demonstration of archaeological, technological, geographical, society buildings. For instance, like Taj Mahal, or like the Ivory Tower. I mean, the Eiffel Tower, or like the Brandenburg Gate, or like the Great Wall of China, or like other major cities or nations or continents and countries have these extraordinary memorial buildings that have been built by the people. Africa is greatly bereft of such structures and buildings. And I've also said that Africa, the circumference of Africa in terms of its seacoast, with the Indian Ocean on the east and the Atlantic Ocean on the west and the Mediterranean Sea at the north, has a circumference of 25,000 miles, approximately the same circumference as the Earth, all surrounded by water. But many years, the indigenous Africans never built a seaworthy vessel. They never built a vessel that could cross the oceans like many other nations did. Even before Columbus sailed the Atlantic, the Scandinavians had crossed the ocean and landed here in America before Columbus did. And Africa is bereft of major contributions in terms of building. I mean, I've gone so much to be, I suppose, insulted enough to say they've never built a comb. They've never built a car. There are no watches. There are no major social instruments assigned to having been designed in Africa. I mean, in Japan, you got all the, Samsung, you got Panasonic, you've got Toyota, you've got Lexus. But Africa is greatly bereft. And I don't say that, by the way, somehow or another with glee or pejoratively, like I'm trying to put people down. I'm trying to wake folk up. Hey, wait a minute, something's wrong here. Why haven't we?
And I think that's my point as to why we have separated Egypt from Africa, because Egypt has, as a hard fact, that Egypt is the beginning of civilization in any history book. So, in all of my life, I have learned, even in grammar school and high school, the teachers have always separated Egypt from Africa. And I felt that when they do that, they take away from the black man and woman and make us feel as though we have not done anything great, like you said, like China, whatever, or different, all of these other different countries and continents. And I feel that when we separate Egypt from Africa and we give it to the Mediterranean or the Middle East or whatever, just like how they try to say that Cleopatra is Mediterranean and Greece, as opposed to saying that she looked just like me, a heavy-set black woman, short, black, thick black woman. It takes away, and it makes me not identify with the people that are some of the to me, the greatest, and this is my opinion, the greatest people on earth. When I learned that I've always been very well learned. I came to school when I came home from school, my mother and my father taught me what was real when the history books taught us what wasn't. And when I began to really study Egypt, and of course in our history books, they showed, the white faces with the blue eyes, et cetera, et cetera. But when I came home and I identified with Egypt, that my people made the pyramids, and they are geometrically correct. And even to this day, no one can figure out, and how did they do this without modern technology, or did they have modern technology, which would bear witness to them having advanced technology. I felt as a black woman, as a black teenager in the city of Chicago at an all-white, majority white high school, I felt empowered. Like, hey, when I learned that the Greeks and the Romans came and stole artifacts from Egypt and made their empires not contingent, but kind of mimicked Egypt's artifacts and things like that, I felt a certain way. So that that was my point in saying that maybe I don't know all of the inventions. I haven't researched all of that, but clearly that's where I'm coming from with that.
Well, let me give you some encouraging words. First of all, Cleopatra was a show-off, stomp-down sister. There ain't no doubt about that. And
did she look like me, sir?
Yeah, she did. Except her neck was a little bit longer than yours, and her chin a little higher. But she brought down the greatest Roman Caesar and Julius Caesar.
She did.
And Mark Antony was so glad that boy was dead, he didn't know what to do. It was all about Cleopatra.
Didn't she play him? She played him like a violin, didn't she?
She knew her thing. Now that
she did.
And I think historically one of the greatest women of all time, Cleopatra.
Yes.
But let me give you something I think that perhaps can encourage you. With respect to the contradictory or the counter teachings of an all-white school system in Chicago based on your mother's closer look at African or heritage and history with respect to Egypt. Egypt was settled, if we look at the three sons of Noah, was settled by Ham, whom I say is my father. And if the pyramids were built and the great mechanized armies and the great societies that Egypt later gave to the world in terms of its leadership and abilities, it was my father Ham that did that. Whether Egypt is in Africa or not is not important now when you recognize that it was my father, or man of my color and texture of life, that was responsible for one of the greatest social building programs the world has ever seen or will ever see happen in Egypt. But you'll have to also understand this biblically, historically, that the Jews, the Hemites, had a father named Abram. When Abram was told by God in Genesis chapter 15, Genesis chapter 13, verse 15, that his people would be servants in Egypt to my father Ham. In other words, the first noted slave owners historically was black people putting Jews in slavery in Egypt for 400 years. I mean, everybody knows that the Jews were slaves to the Egyptians. And if you, either way you split the Nile River, Egypt was obviously Hamite people. But when God took the Jews out of slavery after 400 years of being in slavery, one of the things that God did for Abram because his first name was Abram. That was what he was known as. God gave him my father's name. God named him Abraham, which gave him
Yes, sir.
Abraham.
Yes, sir.
The early part of Abram, the father of the Jews, was not Abraham. He was not Abraham. God added to his name the name of my father, Abraham. Moreover, when God took the Jews out of slavery in Egypt, he gave them my brother Canaan land. When you look at Israel now, Israel, Jerusalem, Bethpage, Bethany, the Golden Heights, the Jordan River, all of that was once occupied by Canaan. If you go to your mother and your grandmother, she'll tell you they used to call that land Canaan land. It wasn't called Israel. It was initially called Canaan land. Now the Palestinians are fighting and saying that they want that land, they want it back from the Jews, but initially it was my brother Canaan. It was Canaan land. And it was Canaan, by the way, my brother, who built the great Jericho wall. One of the greatest construction feats outside of Egypt was in Canaan land, called Jericho, till Joshua knocked it down with that crowd of Jews that came out. So I think that if you look at that historically, it all adds up. It is pretty common knowledge. You don't have to be a historical scientist to know all of that. And I stick with what I say about Egypt still not being in Africa.
Yes, sir. Are the original Jews or Hebrews black? Yes. Do you agree on that? No,
absolutely not. No, absolutely not. The Hebrews are the same color they are now. The Hamites, as having gone to Africa, if you've ever been to the Sinai Peninsula, if you've ever been to around the borders of the Red Sea, Egypt, it goes to 130 degrees and it gets hot over there in the wintertime. And it was there that more of the complexion that we now see as colored people began to be a part of who we are, because the Jew and so-called black man, when we first came out of Noah's wife's womb, we were all the same color. But then many of the Egyptians, after the destruction of Egypt by Moses, journeyed down into Sub-Saharan Africa. And the further they went down into Africa, the more the skin color adapted to the pigmentation to protect you from the sun. The sun was so scorching. Pigmentation is a product that protects you from the sun. It keeps you from getting ill. And I was able to work in the cotton fields of North Carolina all day in 100-degree temperature because the pigmentation protected me from the sun. You put somebody with a pale skin out there, they'll fall out in the first hour because the sun is so excruciating upon their pale skin. That's why we have dark skin.
True. Let's move on. Do you consider yourself a conspiracy theorist?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Okay. You have some videos when President Barack Obama, then Senator Barack Obama, was coming into his presidency. And then I'm going to get into the whole purpose and point of this interview. You were very, very upset. You had this whole thing against President Barack Obama. And I would like to know why. And what are your thoughts or your feelings on President Barack Obama, his presidency, just him as a person?
Well, first of all, let me tell you why I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
Okay.
I've studied long enough and lived long enough to recognize there's a systematic way of discovering whatever it is you want to discover. You don't have to make it a conspiracy. If it's something that if it's an unfounded or founded belief, there's a systematic schedule by which you can determine its truth or not.
Yes.
So you can never call me a conspiracy theorist. I would like to think myself too well trained to rely upon a conspiracy or a theory at that matter. Now, with respect to Barack Hussein, who Almighty God named the long-legged Mac Daddy Obama, he passed himself off as black. Now, he said that he was born of a black father with a white mother. There are a couple of things here. First of all, and let's deal with perhaps the easier one. I think Hawaii became the 50th state when I was in the 7th grade in Red Springs, North Carolina. It wasn't even a state in the lower Pacific Ocean, and the Owens and people of who we don't know what descent they really were from, Hawaiians, and all of a sudden America decided to claim it. Later on, they claimed Alaska or vice versa. But Hawaii, I mean, if you grew up in Chicago on the South Side or wherever you grew up, you know what the hood is. You know what the hood is like. You know what it is to live among the rhythm of Black people. Black people have a rhythm. Black people have they have a good vibe about them in their community, in their culture, their music, their cooking, their dancing. Ain't none of that going on in Hawaii. I can tell you that right now. Hawaii is surfboard people. And Obama grew up a surfboard. He grew up with white children in the Pontotoc High School, grew up with a white grandmama and a white mama. So just in terms of the cultural aspect, he didn't know how to duck back in the alley. Little Richard had a song, late Little Richard had a song about Uncle John dating another woman other than his wife. A woman named Long, Little Richard's song was, he was dating a woman named Long Tall Sally, but he was married to Aunt Mary. And when Little Richard saw Aunt Mary coming while he was walking along Tall Sally, he ducked back in the alley. Listen, Obama don't know how to duck back in the alley. He didn't then and he doesn't now. So just in a cultural sense, if we're going to have a first Black president, there needed to be someone who understood what it is to grow up Black. There needed to be someone who understood that process. He did not. And so there was no way he could relate to the Black man or the Black community. He allegedly had a Black father, which is another question. Then there was the issue was, where was he born? Was he born in Hawaii? Now his Black grandmother in Kenya says that she was his midwife. His mother, Stanley Ann, did travel to Kenya before giving birth. So was he born in Kenya? If he was born in Kenya, then he's a Kenyan. He's an African. His grandmother said that he was born in Africa. Now his grandmother, I don't believe that woman would lie. I just don't think she would. Now, you know, people lie all the time. But for an African Kenyan grandmama who actually said she was the boy's midwife, I don't think she lied. But I think Obama lied. And I think people knew he lied about where he was born. Though his mother was American, and they wanted to be the first Black president, but it was just a farce. It was a sham. And nothing good came out of it, by the way, if you look at his presidency. Hell, we're doing worse now, the Black people, than we were doing before we even knew his name. So that needs to be clear, that it was a ripoff, that it robbed Black people of that. I don't know how much you know about Shirley Chisholm, a Brooklyn congresswoman back in the 1960s, the first shown up Black woman or Black person to ever run for president was Shirley Chisholm.
To ever run for president, yes.
Yeah, and the reason why she didn't make it because she couldn't be bought. She said, I was unbought and I was unbossed because the political parties tried to buy her out, get her to do certain kinds of things that she thought did not represent Black culture, or she'd just be a Black face only, but she wouldn't be a Black president. That's why she didn't make it. Obama sold out to Wall Street. Obama bailed out Lehman Brothers. He bailed out AIG. He bailed out Bear Stearns. He bailed out Morgan Stanley. Obama poured trillions of dollars into Wall Street to shake it back up again and gave Black folk a cell phone and a box of cheese. That's all they ever got from it. It is ridiculous. It is absolutely preposterous to refer to this man in any way as having any kind of compassion or concern for Black people.
Okay. Before we go any further, I always like to acknowledge my viewers and those who have commented on the live feed. We have Brother Darian Young, who is one of my dear brothers and supporters from the city of Chicago, actually from my neighborhood. Greetings to you, Brother Darian. And then we also have Luvolution, which is it's a product that I'm going to talk about a little bit later, but there's Amy and John. I just want to say hello to you all and thank you all for joining in on this afternoon as I speak with Dr. James David Manning. Pastor Manning, the reason for this particular interview is because I have been accused of being a conspiracy theorist, which I don't feel that I am, because I always feel like if there's the truth, where is the conspiracy? And what drew me to you, first of all, let me say that I've seen your videos before I associated you with with Pastor Manning. I've seen you on YouTube with the clown stuff, saying associating you with Uncle Ruckus and just ridiculous things. And I'm not going to even go there because I'm not going to disrespect you or the creators of the Boondocks by even associating you with that character, sir. But I am on a quest and I am doing some research on this whole theory that President Barack Obama was a homosexual and that Michelle Obama is really a man. And her name is Michael LaVaughn Robinson. And I saw this video. This video just kind of popped up into my feed. And it says something about the first gay president. And it talks about President Barack Obama and Michelle and all of these things. And I must say that I have seen several, or at least 2 or 3 different videos, where Barack Obama has referred to Michelle by saying Michael. He was in one video, he was speaking to the military and he said Michael and I. And then there's another video where he was doing some type of news thing or whatever. And he says, Michael, Michelle. And then there's this thing with Joan Rivers, who said, oh, well, we know that Obama is the first, gay president. And we all know that Michelle is a tranny, blah, blah, blah. And a month later, she was dead. Now, but in that video, I heard your voice. And you said that President Barack Obama had a relationship with Reverend Dr. Jeremiah Wright. And that's what caught my attention because I know Pastor Wright. My mother has done ministry with Pastor Wright. And I just wanted to know if that was just rhetoric, if that was something that you heard, or if these are hard facts, because I'm doing my research and I've noticed that a couple of the different records and things as I'm doing my research, some of these records are sealed. Some of the majority of these records I cannot pull up, like the will that her mother left, where it says to my son, Michael Robinson, et cetera, et cetera. She supposedly had this sex change surgery at Johns Hopkins University in 1983. But I heard your voice, which is why I got in touch with you when you said that Pastor Jeremiah Wright of Trinity United Church of Christ here in the city of Chicago. He's one of my favorite pastors, and I'm not biased by any means. But I just need to know, sir, is that rhetoric or do you have hard facts?
Well, first of all, you do a pretty good Joan Rivers, so you ought to try it again. The late Joan Rivers, as it is.
Yes, thank you so much, sir.
Before Obama was elected president, I had several meetings and associations with a Japheth homosexual named Larry Sinclair. And on one of my videos, I wrote a song. Obama.
He had an accident, right? He was the one who was on
television. Obama. Larry Sinclair is yet alive. But I met with him. Yeah, he's Japheth. He the first one. He said that he and Obama had a love affair when Obama was in Chicago.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Now the person you might be referring to was a 4th grade school.
Oh, here it interruption.
That was also of the who was a member of the choir, a choir master.
Oh, here comes the interruptions.
We got some problems.
We're having technical difficulties now, sir. I kind of notice when I get to talking about certain subjects, I start having technical difficulties. Continue, though.
I forget it was a fourth grade school teacher who was later killed. His name escapes me now. I haven't called it in quite some time. Who? Donald Young was his name. He's a fourth grade school teacher in Chicago school system. He was a choir master, and he and Obama were getting it on. I actually met with Larry Sinclair on a number of occasions. I actually attended this press conference at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. And I've been around drug addicts. I've been around homosexuals all my life. I'm not one. But I understand the culture, and I understand the language of, if you're speaking truth about a circumstance, a dark part of society such as homosexuality, you got to go into that rabbit hole, know how to talk that language down there. Larry Sinclair's description of his relationship with Obama could only have been true because you can't make that kind of stuff. Obama was at the time an assemblyman for the state of Illinois. But yeah, let me say another thing to you. Kay, I have been accused by a lot of women about a lot of things. And a lot of women said I said this, did that, and did the other. Some true, some not true. But, I find it hard for a man to reach the age of 45, 50 years old, and no woman nowhere ever comes out and ever says anything they never said to them. I mean, come on. If you're a man, some woman gonna say you said something, and then if you try to get to political office, they're gonna find their opportunity to say
coming out the woodwork.
There ain't no woman that's ever come out and said anything against Obama. Nobody ever come out and said something about. I said I gotta learn what that boy did, because women are coming at me all the time about something. So I'm trying to figure out the reason why the only people that came out against him are homosexual men. So that within itself ought to be some credibility.
Okay. I understand exactly what you're saying. I want to go back to Larry Sinclair, though, because it was reported that Larry Sinclair died in a car accident in 1990. I'm sorry, say that again?
Larry, last I heard, he was alive. This is going back, last I heard of Larry, a year ago, he was alive. Last I heard.
Well, yeah. Well, the information that I have is that, we'll talk when we get off of here. We're gonna have a conversation. But again, getting back to the relationship with Reverend Wright and President Barack Obama, are these hard facts, or is this again just hearsay?
Well, I wasn't there. I wasn't there.
Okay.
But here's what happens, KD, is that once I exploded on the scene talking about Obama, my video went around the planet, and I got calls from people who would say things. And depending on how many calls I got about one thing or the other, I would give it some validity. The calls I got when I was talking about Obama could have come from a lot of people that were just in opposition and trying to smear the man. I understand that. But I evaluated the things that he said, and the things that were said was more that your favorite pastor, Jeremiah Wright, was homosexual.
I didn't say he was my favorite. I said I didn't say he was my favorite. I only have a couple of favorites now. I just said that I know him and he's done ministry with my mother, but I never said he was my favorite.
Listen. So I appreciate it. Let's be clear about what we can be clear about. But Kay, I think we also need to be clear about the fact that a number of pastors are gay. They just
Yes,
keep it
they
in the
are.
closet.
Let's keep it 100.
You'd be
Yes, they are.
surprised at the number of men standing up with wives, but they're as gay as
Well,
anything you've seen. And
no, I
Jeremiah,
wouldn't be surprised, sir, because I'm a writer, I'm a producer, director, and an actress, and I'm into film and television. So nothing, and I'm from the South Side of Chicago. Nothing. When I do say nothing, nothing surprises me anymore. I'm actually writing a piece on this, which is called Safe, because I have witnessed pastors who are homosexuals. And let me say this to the LGBTQ, I want to be correct, community, that I have absolutely nothing against homosexuality or those, because I have people in my family that I love who are homosexuals. I'm not even about to go there and touch that. Whatever you do in your bedroom, that's between you, your partner, and your God. I have nothing to do with that. But I have experienced pastors and political figures with wives who have homosexual, and their wives are, which is the whole point of the piece called Safe, which who have wives and who have these relationships, with other men and doing all type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Not even just with men, but with young boys, because there's a difference between homosexuality, pedophilia, and there's a whole thing there. So I've experienced that for myself. So I'm not even going there. I'm not shunning that. I ain't got nothing to do with that. But what I am saying is that I'm not surprised about anything, sir, because I've been there, done that. I've seen it all. My point and what drew me to you was the fact that you said that Pastor Jeremiah Wright had a relationship with President Barack Obama, and I just needed to know if those were hard facts or if this was just rhetoric and just hearsay. Because that's a very hard, to be accused, excuse me for interrupting you, but to be accused, first of all, of something that you have not done, and you've experienced that when you were accused of a crime that you did not commit, but to be accused of something like that. Now. Yeah, to be accused, exactly. And that was the point of this interview, because I've seen you being accused of all type of stuff. So I wanted to get it from the horse's mouth myself. But to be accused of something as homosexuality, if and or when you are not, that's a very, very hurtful thing. One of my brothers was accused of something like this with someone else in the entertainment industry, and the hurt that comes behind that is very detrimental. These people have families, they have, whatever. So if it's not hard facts, then that's what I need to know. I deal with facts. I don't deal with rhetoric and hearsay. I deal with facts. So that's why I want to talk to you. So
I don't have hard facts. I don't have hard facts. All I have is the information that was fed to me, but with no corroborating evidence, none whatsoever.
Okay, so no,
except of the language itself and the reporting.
Okay, all right. Okay, awesome. Well, Pastor Manning, I have enjoyed. Now, I haven't. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
No, I'm good.
I have enjoyed this conversation with you. I want to be respectful of your time, because I know when we talked earlier, you asked how long we were going to be on this interview, and I know you're a very busy man. I'm due to be in New York sometime next year. When I come to New York, I'm definitely coming to your church, sir, because I got to see it for myself. I want to be in one of your services and just get with you and just see how your services move. You have been a wonderful, wonderful guest. You've been so gracious to me. Your wife has been very gracious. I thank you for getting back to me in such a timely manner. I do want to just shout out Luvolution. This is a product by Amy and John in Maine. I just want to say this while I'm still here. They have a product that is a dietary supplement. Hold on one second. I lost my place here. It is a health supplement that deals with all type of good things for your body. And I'm going to come back, and you guys that are watching, I'm going to come back in the next 30 days and tell you how good it's worked for me. But again, Pastor James David Manning, I thank you for being a guest on my show. I thank you for clearing up some things. I thank you for having a non-clownish interview with me, because like I said, I've seen some of your other videos and I'm just like, oh my God, you are a very smart man. You are a very learned man. And I just appreciate you for taking out the time in your busy schedule for speaking to little old me, KD in Chicago, Illinois.
Well, listen, KD, thank you so very much for having me.
You're
And
welcome.
thank you for your very intellectual, critical approach. I felt like I was on the stand being cross-examined by Johnny Cochran.
Well, I was supposed. Don't say that, because I was supposed to be a lawyer. So now when my mother sees this, she's gonna say, "I told you you was supposed to go to law school."
I'm gonna talk to your mama and tell her she need to make it back to law school. The way you grilled me today. But anyway, listen, I seriously thank you for having me today.
But it was respectful, right? It was.
Oh, absolutely,
right?
No doubt about it.
Absolutely.
It was. I'll go one further. It was professional, which made it respectful.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you. So thank you, Dr. James David Manning. Thank you to the viewers that tuned in on this wonderful afternoon. I appreciate you. I love you. You all, like I always say, be nice, be kind. We're in a pandemic, so check on your people. Everyone's not doing okay. I love you all. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you guys Friday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, Down the Rabbit Hole with KD. Thank you.